Good morning, my friends. Good morning. I want to welcome you this morning to the First Parish in Lincoln, where we come together every Sunday morning and many days in between to nurture our spirituality, to build community, and to pursue justice. It is a joy to see your faces gathered before me on this somewhat chilly April morning, the last Sunday of the month of April. Flowers are blooming. Construction is back in Lincoln, just in case we missed that too much. And today in church, we are wrapping up our April worship theme, Abundantly. Abundantly. 2 weeks ago, I preached about the relationship between stillness and abundance. We are enough. And then last Sunday, Sarah Kay reflected on the idea of Jubilee, that ancient Jewish tradition of erasing debts so that all people can have enough. And today we are so excited to be welcoming back to our church and to our pulpit the Reverend Mary Margaret Earle. Mary Margaret, yes, let's welcome her. Mary Margaret, as some of you know, has served as Executive Director and Senior Minister of the Unitarian Universalist Urban Ministry in Roxbury for the last 11 years. In that ministry, she works for racial justice and strengthens the connection between Unitarian Universalists and the Roxbury neighborhood where the UUUM operates. As part of her sermon today, Mary Margaret is distributing a little prompt. We hope you might have gotten that in your bulletin. If not, don't worry, you will receive it. It's just a small slip of paper, and it's an invitation for us to meditate on a difficult time and what helped us get through it. So that sense of strength. And so you're invited sometime in the first 40 minutes of our service together to write down a little something, and then those papers will be collected, and a few of them will even be used in the sermon this morning. So we're looking forward to that. I want to offer a special hello if you might be visiting with us this morning. One of the ministers or one of the deacons would love to speak with you afterwards, and we'll hope you'll join us for coffee hour through those doors. And let's give a big greeting to everybody who is with us online. It's so good to have you with us today, wherever you're coming in from. We invite you to share a prayer during our time of community prayers and to join us in contributing to our stewardship and capital campaign drives, which are ongoing. A thank you to the flowers below the pulpit today, given by Gina Halstead in celebration of spring's gentle awakening. And gratitude this morning to our wonderful ushers and our hospitality team and the religious exploration helpers up the hill, including Reverend Kit, working with our wonderful church kids. Friends, whoever you are, however you love, whatever mood you woke up in this morning, whatever your experience of church has or hasn't been, you belong here. We are so glad that you've made the time to be with us this morning. And we hope that there is something in our silence and our words, in our music and our time together that lifts you up and carries you into your week. Would you rise now in body or spirit as we join together in our opening words, which you can find in the bulletin. They come from Desmond Tutu. Liberation is costly. Even after the Lord had delivered the Israelites from Egypt, they had to travel through the desert. They had to bear the responsibilities and difficulties of freedom. There was starvation and thirst, and they kept complaining. We must remember that liberation is costly. It needs unity. We must hold hands and refuse to be divided. We must be ready. Let us be united. Let us be filled with hope. Let us be those who respect one another.
Please be seated. In a moment, I'll invite you to join, if you wish, in saying the words of our covenant, which are printed in the order of service. This is an unusual church. We are a covenantal church. We are a church because we say so. We say so. And this is a chance to reaffirm that. So, in the love of truth and in the spirit of Jesus, we unite for the worship of God and the service of all.
Amen. So once in a while, friends, we take a little time at the beginning of one of our services to offer a time for building community, a chance to speak about one of the initiatives that we are offering to build community in our midst. And I'm going to invite forward now Laura Crandall and Chris Andresiak, and Dave Elliott is getting off a plane from California. I don't think he's quite here yet. But today we're going to be talking about small groups. And before we hear from two of our new small group leaders, I just have a question. Would you raise your hand if you are part of a small group at First Parish right now? So we have about 90 people in our congregation who participate in 9 small groups, and these are really a wonderful opportunity to find your people, right, within the larger sea of the First Parish community. We've started 2 small groups in the last year or so, and those are flourishing wonderfully. And I'm so excited to announce today that we are launching 2 more small groups led by Laura Crandall and by Chris Andresiak and Dave Elliott. Yeah, let's give it up for these wonderful leaders. So Laura, I'm going to invite you to step forward, and she's going to speak for just a minute about the small group that she is about to lead for us.
I'm excited to, I'm Laura. I'm excited to be able to offer this new small group as part of sort of my interest in spiritual growth and development. I'm starting a group that is entitled, I'm just going to read this because it's easier, Spiritual Direction, Shared Holy Listening. And it's a group process that we're going to do the following. Through a process of shared silence, individual speaking, deep listening and reflection, we're going to allow contemplative insights to enrich our experience of the sacred together. By way of themes, images, and metaphor, we'll explore the presence of the numinous in each person's life during our time together and share our contemplative wisdom. It's a way for us to sort of bring into community that which is, we notice about the mysterious in our own life and share that with each other, and allow our reflection and insight about what we each share together to inform our own awareness of the spiritual and the mystery in our life. So I'm looking forward to that. We're going to do Mondays, the second Monday of the month. We're going to start on May 11th. Time to be determined, but it'll probably be around the 4:30 hour. But we're checking with some other calendar items. But come and find me afterward, and I'd love to tell you more.
Thank you, Laura. And now Chris is going to speak to us about our other new small group.
Good morning. Yes, I'm Chris, and my friend Dave Elliott is going to join the group or lead the group with me. And I'll just start off by reading the brief blurb that we wrote, which is recently retired or can maybe see it on the horizon, no kids, empty nested or soon to be. A new men's group will be part peer group and part discussion group, focused on meaning and connection when kids and career are not central. Discussion topics will be inspired by sermon topics and other sources. So I think every week Dave and I will be listening to the sermons and other things, saying, okay, what's in here that we're going to bring to this group? And this group, it's really all going to be about transitions. Either a transition that you've gone through or you might go through before too long, or maybe some of both. So we're also going to meet on the second Monday of each month, probably in the evening. Actually, definitely in the evening at 7:30. We have, 6 or 7 people that have already said that they're interested, and if anyone else is, please let me know. All right, thanks, Nate.
One more round of applause for Chris and Laura. We're so grateful for these leaders for stepping forward. And we hope that all, or at least some of you, will express your interest. You can do so by speaking directly to the leaders or by sending me a note. Again, just a great chance for us to continue to get to know one another in really different ways, right? Both groups so different, but they speak to some of the breadth of what we offer and experience here. So now we're going to join our voices as we sing our sung response, which you can find on the next page in your bulletin. Let us sing together. Our first reading is the 11th Psalm. Reading this morning, there was one phrase in particular that stood out to me, thinking about these times we live in. If the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? Maybe there's a word or a phrase that will stand out to you this morning as we listen for the Spirit to speak. In the Lord I take refuge. How can you say to me, flee like a bird to the mountains? For look, the wicked bend the bow. They have fitted their arrow to the string to shoot in the dark at the upright in heart. If the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? The Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven. His eyes behold, his gaze examines humankind. The Lord tests the righteous and the wicked, and his soul hates the lover of violence. On the wicked he will rain coals of fire and sulfur. A scorching wind shall be the portion of their cup. For the Lord is righteous. He loves righteous deeds. The upright shall behold his face.
We come to the time in our service that we set aside for silent and spoken prayer. To prepare, let us remaining seated, sing hymn 352 in the Great Hymnal. Afterwards, there will be a couple of minutes for silent meditation and reflection.
beloved people. Let's continue in prayer now by lifting up those people and those places that are on our hearts this morning. We know that each of us comes into this place carrying so much. And so this is a chance to offer up our prayers before one another and before Spirit. If you would mention your first name before sharing your prayer, we would appreciate that. And at this time, if you just raise your hand, Ben and I will make our way around with the microphones.
Hi, I'm Deanna, and it's just so great to be back in this space. It's been a couple of months, so I made a few notes because I knew I would get emotional. So first off, I want to thank the staff at Mass General for the amazing care that they gave me, and to be able to sit here in this pew and be still for the first time in 6 years is amazing. And also, I just want to thank this community, because when I counted the cards on my mantle and my piano, there were over 50, and the gifts of food and love and prayers, that's what got me through these last couple of months. It was just amazing. I feel so embraced. And I have such a bright future because of the surgeries. And I thought of this prayer that the German theologian Meister Eckhart, if the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is thank you, it will be enough. And then just one other prayer of pure joy. We became grandparents 2 weeks ago for the first time. And Finn is like a Christmas present. It's just like we're like little kids. We can't get enough of them. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Alana. I just wanted to say a prayer of thanks for this beautiful spring. Spring is my favorite season, and especially driving around Lincoln and seeing all the colors and the pink trees makes me so incredibly happy and grateful for the state we live in. Thanks.
Last January, I asked for a prayer for my daughter-in-law's mother, who was diagnosed with cancer. And at the time, I noted how it was bringing a very dysfunctional and fractured family together. She died 2 weeks ago, and seeing how that family came together over the last 4 months, what we're talking about today strikes me too. It's you can come together, you can heal, you can break bad habits, you can heal, and it was a wonderful thing to see.
My name is Jeannie, and this is a prayer for our friend Betsy, who is taking her last breaths sometime in the next day or so. And I pray that her passing is a comfortable one.
A prayer for my cousin Bob, who was killed in Vietnam on this day, 1967, at age 20. And for the veterans who are at the Capitol now protesting the war in Iran.
It's Corey. A lot of you know my mom has a rare neurological condition that left her in a wheelchair, and also has a lot of difficulty speaking. So over time, a lot of kind of friends and people close to her faded away, and so she became pretty lonely and isolated. And recently, we were able to come together and coordinate for her to be able to go to a conference for people with ataxia, which is the kind of set of symptoms that she has. So she was able to fly to Florida and be around people that understood her, and she came out of it feeling less alone. And so it's just, I was really grateful to be part of that and witness it.
Excuse me. My name is Gabe. I want to say a prayer for my friend and mentor, Kevin, who is going through a lot of health issues right now. He's someone who's helped a lot of the folks who are living, sleeping on the street out in Worcester, and has given all of himself to other people and want some of himself for himself to be left. And so hoping that he gets better soon and can focus on him. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, and this is a prayer for our friend and neighbor and fellow churchgoer, Peter Sugar, who's having some medical challenges at this time. That euphemism is at all correct.
I'm Julie, and a prayer for two dear friends who are around 50, and one had gone through breast cancer and unfortunately is having symptoms that investigating. So a prayer for Kristen and a prayer for Una as she goes through treatment. Thank you.
I'd like to offer, Sarah, I'd like to offer a prayer this morning. It comes also from Paula, Caroline, and Jonna, that if, and that's a big if, the parole department of the Commonwealth actually does what it's promised, our mentee will be paroled on Tuesday after 14 years in prison. He's a wonderful person, and I think probably there'll come a time when all of you will meet him. So I do wish him well.
This week, the First Parish will host 2 memorial services. The first will be on Friday for Bill Stason, and the second on Saturday for Laura Stuckey Johnson. And so we ask that you might hold Bill's family, especially Sue, and Laura's family in your prayers this week. We lift up all these prayers offered this morning, both those uttered aloud and those lifted up in the silence of our hearts. Amen.
Spirit of many names, who some of us call God or Adonai or Allah, who some are not sure what to call you, be with us this morning. Sit with us as we reflect. I was up here 2 weeks ago and I described our world as a hot mess. And that's still true. There's a ceasefire, but that's the best I can say. Threats, counter threats, shootings, still scary, still a hot mess. It's tough to maintain equanimity. In fact, I often question if that's even a wise goal. On the other hand, I do want to be someone who, when I get cut off in traffic, don't fly into a rage. Is that the same? That's complicated. So 2 weeks ago, I prayed for faith. That's what I always pray for, but you know. I pray for the faith that things will work out okay. Not in the sense that I won't get old, get sick, die. I know that's inevitable. Not in the sense that the next time I do something stupid or reckless, or stupid and reckless, that you'll swoop down and pull me out of it. I know that's not how the way things work either. No, what I pray for is the faith that in spite of what happens to me personally, that we will be okay. That eventually we will collectively bend the arc of the moral universe towards justice. Perhaps not this week, perhaps not in my lifetime, but eventually. Faith that will come to see, really see that violence is not the solution to violence. Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Jesus, they're all pretty clear on that. We think that making other people suffer will make us suffer less. We can be better than that. May it be so. So, please join me, if you wish, in saying the words of the unison prayer, which is printed in the order of service. On my worst days, it's gravity that I'm most grateful for. The way the world pulls at me from her core, yearns for me, keeps me pressed tightly against her surface. When my own core is hollowed out, I have no more mass than a dead leaf on a branch. Still, this is enough for the earth to find me. She reaches for what little I have and says, stay. Every meditation I have ever done begins by asking me to ground myself. This is not so much an action as it is inaction. Surrender, a voluntary abandonment of my own edges and tidy packaging. Sit with me now. Press the soles of your feet back into the ground you sprang from. Feel the weight of your body and know that it is glorious. You are born sun and sun, and the wholeness of the earth is a call to love. The earth is reaching forward. Reach back. Reach back. Will the ushers please wait upon us to receive the morning's offering? gifts and the givers, and we ask that we may use these gifts wisely and well, both to nurture the life of this congregation and to further the goals of justice and peace throughout the world. Please be seated.
In today's anthem that you're about to hear, many of you will notice the tune Kumbaya, and which actually is Come By Here. And as you hear the choir sing this beautiful prayer and plea for justice and for release from pain and for unity among all people, I hope you can internalize their message too.
Come by
Thank you so much. So beautiful. Thank you. Before I begin the second reading, I bring your attention back to the slips of paper and invite you to jot something down if you haven't already, describing the strength at the center of you that got you through a hard time. They will be collected right after the reading by my colleague Maggie, and perhaps with some help from the ushers. Our second reading is from the book The Demon of Unrest by Eric Larson. And this reading, as background, describes the setting just as Lincoln was being elected and frightening the enslavers in the South that he would bring about abolition. And in order to assuage or calm the South, Senator Seward said he would sign on to a proposal that he would not support the end of enslavement where it already existed, though Senator Seward was an abolitionist. He thought that he could calm the rising anger. So begins our reading. What Senator Seward perhaps did not truly understand was that at this point in the crisis, the thing the South most resented was the inalterable fact that the North, like the rest of the modern world, condemned slavery as a fundamental evil. In so doing, abolitionists and their allies impugned the honor of the entire Southern white race. For if slavery was indeed evil, then the South itself was evil, and its echelons of gentlemen, the chivalry, were nothing more than moral felons. Yet the chivalry had persuaded themselves of a different reality. Slavery was a positive good. It was endorsed by the Bible and by anthropological observation. Even two famed northern anthropologists, Louis Agassiz and Charles Morton, both of Harvard, no less, had proclaimed on the basis of purportedly scientific research that the black race was not only inferior, but a different species altogether. If slavery was good, then slave owners were good, and anyone who said otherwise abraded their honor, something no Southerner could forgive. So ends our reading. And so begins our gathering of your slips of paper. I invite you to pass them down where they can be collected. Thank you so much. As they're collected, let me just say how lovely it is to be back in Lincoln again this morning. I want to thank Ben for helping to shepherd the service today. Thank you. Thank you to Reverend Nate and Reverend Kit for welcoming me back into the pulpit. It is good to be here. And as you may know, First Parish Lincoln is one of 46 congregations around Greater Boston that are members of the urban ministry, and your delegates are Alice DeNormandy and Gary Taylor. They help to build a bridge between us, between what's happening here and what's happening at the urban ministry in Roxbury, and I thank them for their service, although I know Alice couldn't be here this morning. And my colleague Maggie, who's busily collecting slips, she's going to also be in your social hour and has lots of information to share with you after the service. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you, everyone. One of the reasons that I love to come here is because it allows me to thank you for the ways that you support the work of the urban ministry. So I want to just mention a few of the folks who support our work: Barbara Leggett, Kathy Brobeck,
Emily Hazlitt, Priscilla Damon, Jackie Lenth, and Andy Fallender are among our supporters. Thank you. And I also always feel called to lift up the generations of the de Normandy family who are so tied to us. They're such a part of your history, and they're such a part of our history. Reverend James de Normandy, who served as your minister, also served as a minister of First Church Roxbury in the 1800s, and his, I think, daughter, or his Martha de Normandy, also served on the board of directors of the urban ministry for many years, and her children and niece continue to support us, and I know that they're working on getting the next generations involved, so it's special to be here. It's also good to be here with you in this moment of our national history, which is a really hard and intense moment. Daily, we are drowning in the cascade of headlines that frighten us and frustrate us and make us angry before we even start the day. Who here, when you're following the news and following the headlines, can feel like you're a cat chasing a laser beam? Or can feel exhausted before you even finish your first cup of morning coffee, right? I'm with you. So this morning, we are gonna focus on how we resist being drawn into that chaos, about how we stay grounded in the midst of it. And we're gonna begin by, again, breathing in and out. We can never do that too much, too often. And we're gonna begin with a story. In March of 1861, Abraham Lincoln was inaugurated and became president when the nation was on the brink. At the heart of the stress fracture between the North and the South was enslavement. This conflict was intensifying as Southern slaveholders feared that Lincoln would end their dominion. For years, the dispute over enslavement had simmered. The South, no longer in step with the rest of the world that had deemed it immoral, protected the institution ferociously. Political solutions like the Missouri Compromise had tenuously held the nation together, but all of that was coming undone with Lincoln's unlikely election. This gangly, rough-hewn president had a deep and abiding faith in the Constitution of our young country and in the central importance of its cohesion, and he waded into the center of a fiery cauldron. One of the first letters to be passed to him after he assumed the presidency was about the crisis at Fort Sumter in Charleston, South Carolina. This moment, we now know, was the spark that finally ignited the Civil War. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you. Charleston was a hub for slave trading, and South Carolina, the first state to secede. The politics of the slaveholding state were driven by the wishes of a group of wealthy enslavers known as the Chivalry. Eric Larson, in the book that I read from, The Demon of Unrest, which told of events leading up to the attack on Fort Sumter, described the Chivalry thus, quote, "The Chivalry gave themselves military titles and favored elaborate uniforms. Their Southern Carolina standard bearer, novelist William Gilmore Simms, wrote 82 novels in which chivalry and honor were central themes. Chivalry, to him, meant gallantry, stimulated by courage, warmed by enthusiasm, and refined by courtesy. The chivalry valued honor above all human traits and would happily kill to sustain it," end quote. Their fierce commitment to enslavement was propelled by economics and power, yes, but also something even deeper, self-image. Southern enslavers needed to see enslavement as good because they wanted to be seen as good. And it was this framing of enslavement that allowed enslavers to read the Bible and verses, as we heard earlier, and affirm their own virtue. The Lord examines the righteous, But the wicked and those who love violence he hates with a passion. Enslavers were, by their own reading and reasoning, the righteous. And the North said otherwise. The thing the South most resented, Larson wrote, was the inalterable fact that the North, like the rest of the modern world, condemned slavery as a fundamental evil. In so doing, abolitionists and their allies impugned the honor of the entire Southern white race, for if slavery was indeed evil, then the South itself was evil, and its echelons of gentlemen, the chivalry, were nothing more than moral felons, end quote. This, Larson wrote, the South could not forgive. And it was in this charged atmosphere that Fort Sumter stood. When South Carolina seceded, its leaders deemed it an insult to their new government that federal troops remained. They demanded surrender. To hold the fort, the U.S. troops needed food, supplies dwindled, the Confederate forces swelled. At stake was the nation, a continued fragile truce between North and South. At stake was war. In this fraught moment, Abraham Lincoln received a letter about Fort Sumter. The question before him was whether to fight, to send in supplies, or to evacuate, each choice leading to a reaction of national proportion. He received it, and he immediately paused. He pondered. Abraham Lincoln pondered. With tensions rising, with Confederate representatives knocking at his door, with streams of job seekers crowding into the White House, Lincoln considered. He stayed grounded, and he considered. He asked his newly appointed cabinet members to weigh in. When most had abandoned Fort Sumter, he continued pondering. Days passed, tensions rose. And Abraham Lincoln stood in the midst of it, considering the surest path forward. We know the ending of the story. In the short term, Sumter was lost. In the longer term, the Union held. In the much longer term, we are still grappling with the legacy of enslavement into today. When I read the story, I was struck by three things. One, the parallels with today's national landscape. Two, Lincoln's ability to resist chaos and think clearly. And three, how challenging that is for us to do today with our 24-hour news cycle. Today we hear echoes of that pre-Civil War time, the national polarization, the drive by a few elites at the top to grab and hold on to power, the anger, the high stakes, but there's also now the pace of it, news that is delivered to us not by horseback, but rapid-fire social media. We live in a maelstrom of distressing news, and maybe that is the point of it, to distract and exhaust us. And so there is no more important matter before us than staying grounded in the midst of it. Staying grounded so we can prioritize and think clearly and act from the strength at the center of ourselves. Our first task is bringing ourselves back to our center. So we call on prayer, meditation, exercise, laughter. This last one Abraham Lincoln used liberally in his storytelling. We may not feel that we have the time for that with democracy at risk, but staying grounded is our first task of resistance. When we feel overwhelmed, we are called to slow down, step back, and breathe. Not to avoid what's happening by no means, but to wisely respond to it. And when the dust of the chaos settles, we then stay grounded. We stay grounded in our heads, in our hearts, and in our gut. First, we stay grounded in our heads, in what we know. Since the killing of George Floyd, many of us began waking up to the legacy of enslavement. Statistics on health, wealth, and educational disparities evidenced this legacy. According to the Boston Indicators Project, in 2022, white U.S. households had about 6 times the wealth of black households. In Massachusetts, black residents are far likelier to rely on Medicaid than whites. And in Boston, life expectancy in Roxbury, an historically black neighborhood where the urban ministry stands, life expectancy in Roxbury is 23 years less than it is 1 mile away in Whiteback Bay. In the face of this knowledge, we hung Black Lives Matter banners. We examined the history that we've inherited in which criminal justice, healthcare, and housing systems conspire against people of color. We held vigils, called for diversity, looked inward, and began talking more seriously about reparations. At the Urban Ministry in 2020, we made commitments for racial reckoning, promising to interrogate the history of First Church Roxbury, the congregation whose historic meeting house we inherited and now inhabit. Since then, we've worked in partnership with the African American community, searching archives for the names of people enslaved by white congregants, tracing their lives and their lineage to name and to honor them. In 2020, we committed to a vision in which all people have equitable access to resources and the ability to shape the future. And so we deepened our commitment to our after-school program, supporting high school students of color in becoming the city's next leaders and in reaching for their dreams. They face greater barriers than their white suburban peers. More students of color attend high-poverty schools with fewer resources. Wealth disparities mean they borrow more money to go to college and carry that debt into adulthood. And once they graduate, they continue to face inequity. According to the Center for Economic and Social Justice at Roxbury Community College, white workers in Greater Boston with a high school diploma make $2 more per hour than people of color with an associate's degree. We work persistently and insistently to ensure that these students have opportunity to thrive despite the barriers that they have inherited. And now comes this groundswell effort to turn back time, to cover over Black history, to halt progress in achieving basic fairness. Recently, an activist in Greater Boston spoke of how it's become more difficult in this chaos to get people to focus on racial justice because there are so many issues to face. And yes, there are. But the work that we all took up to address the racist fissures in our country is no less relevant today than it was in 2020. Indeed, it is the heart of what's going on. According to the Boston Indicators Project, the federal budget cuts will further increase racial disparities. Quote, by cutting supports like Medicaid and SNAP and reshaping student aid, this budget not only worsens income inequality today, but also sets in motion dynamics that will widen wealth disparities tomorrow, especially across racial lines, end quote. The end of the Civil War was not an end to racism. Pro-slavery Americans surrendered but were not transformed, and racism has shape-shifted through the last century through redlinings and lynchings and mass incarceration into today and this landscape. Racism may not be the only thread running through today's struggle for the soul of our country, but it is most certainly a thick and tenacious one. So we ground ourselves in the work that we have undertaken, in what we've learned, in what we know, and we stay the course. Second, we ground ourselves in our hearts by who we know and love. We ground ourselves in community. we center ourselves in real relationships, in real time, and how we're gathering here today in this faith community, in the small groups that you're nurturing. Here is the power to create, to transform, to lift up. Consider how here in this faith community you have called one another forward, offered opportunities for activism, lent encouragement. Consider who's been to a protest or written a letter or sent a postcard or learned about a social justice issue because of this faith community, because someone asked you to or invited you to or was willing to stand with you. We do together what would be harder to do alone. Let us feel the energy that pulses here in this beloved circle. Let that ground us. And let us also widen the circle. In Greater Boston, we remain deeply segregated by race and by income. To be fully and powerfully grounded in what is happening today, we need to be proximate to those who are most directly impacted by both inherited inequity and by recent cuts to SNAP and healthcare, for whom poverty is a daily reality. Brian Stevenson of the Equal Justice Initiative speaks of the power of proximity. Ultimately, he says, quote, what we do to get proximate to those who are disfavored, what we do to change narratives, what we do to stay hopeful, what we do that is inconvenient and uncomfortable can sometimes be the most meaningful thing that we do, end quote. At the Urban Ministry, one of our deepest values is partnership and proximity. We walk with Roxbury organizations, we build connections, we listen to the Black community, which has a deep and lived experience in facing and overcoming oppression by weaponized government institutions, something that some of us may be facing and fearing for the first time. When we reach out beyond our mostly white and comfortable communities, we ground ourselves in the power of relationship. When we get proximate to communities directly impacted by the pain that is being doled out, then the crisis we are in moves from an idea into our hearts, and we move with greater assurance and urgency. And 3, we ground ourselves in our gut, in knowing who we are. Many of us are afraid of what the future holds. I know I'm afraid. Single-handedly, we can't predict or control what's going to come. But every single one of us here has been through hard times and we survived. For every one of us, there was a time when we were overwhelmed or full of sorrow or lost, and it was hard to see the way forward, but we found the way, and here we are. Every one of us has that glowing coal at the center that got us through. Eric Larson wrote of Lincoln's Secretary of State, William Seward, in the early days of the new administration, when Seward tried to manipulate the new president about Fort Sumter in the midst of that cloud of stress. Seward, the more polished politician, was certain that he could push around this country lawyer, this man who'd suffered the early loss of his mother, whose father was barely literate, who grew up poor. What he did not recognize yet, Larson writes, is that there was steel in this Illinois lawyer. The theme this month is abundantly, and we do not have to look far to see what we have been given in abundance. We have within us gifts of steel and light to the times that we are in, and I lift a few up. The strength that we have, learning, relationships and community, movement, faith that I can make a difference. Kindness. I was able to care for my parents in a way they could not care for me. Communication. Reaching out to friends and family for conversation and help. Love of learning, joy. Love from family and community, and love again, and so many more. These are just some of the gifts that are abundantly here right now. There is a cloud of chaos and hurt that is happening, but we have the power to resist by what we know, by our connections, and by who we are. May we remember that we are enough. We are more than enough for the times that we are in. And may we keep walking forward in faith. In the words of the Reverend William Barber, forward together, not one step back. And may it be so, and amen. I invite you to join in our closing hymn, 168.
Please join me, if you wish, in saying the words to our call to ministry. We go forth from the worship of God to be faithful to the vision of Jesus, to affirm each person's dignity, and to cherish the living earth.
I want to thank each and every one of you for being with us this morning. I want to thank Ben and Mary Margaret for coming back with us and sharing such a powerful message. It was so cool to hear those words of all of us woven in at the end. One prayer that I did not see that I wanted to read from Mary Ann online was just a prayer for all those affected by the what happened in D.C. yesterday, and a prayer for safety and peace going forward. We hope you'll join us for coffee hour right through these doors after the announcements, and whenever we go today, will you listen for this blessing? As we head out into the maelstrom of the world once again, may we find the ways to stay grounded. May we find the ways to keep moving forward. May we hear that still, small voice that speaks to us, that keeps us whole, that keeps us confident, that keeps us our very best selves. And may the peace that passes all understanding rest in your hearts this day and forevermore. Amen. You're invited to be seated one more time as we transition into our announcements. I invite you to turn towards the back of your bulletins to see some of the exciting stuff we have coming up as we move into the month of May here at the First Parish. I'd like to lift up just a few events, and then we'll pass the microphones around if anybody else has an announcement to share about something that's not listed in the order of service. Tomorrow night at 7:30, Reverend Kit and our wonderful Parish Committee Chair, Gina Halstead, will be leading a Membership 101 class. It's on Zoom, so you can tune in from wherever you are. And that's for anyone who's really just curious, sort of to go under the hood of the First Parish a little more, to hear about how we are structured in terms of our committees, our governance. I think it's particularly designed for folks who have joined the church in the last few years, but it's really open to anyone who has that sort of curiosity. Again, that's tomorrow night. Next Sunday, we're really looking forward to our service, which we call Springfest. That's going to be up the hill in the Parish House Auditorium. We'll have flower communion, so bring a flower from your local garden. The bell choir will be playing. The kids choir will be singing. Kit will be preaching. You don't want to miss that. That's next Sunday. And then if you saw the flyer in the back of the bulletin, we're also looking forward to March 17th, a church-wide trip after our service to join our youth who are going into Boston to bring food and participate in the Common Cathedral service on the Boston Common. So more information about that in the back of your bulletin. To be led by our youth to go into Boston to serve, what an amazing opportunity. So make some time for that as well. Do we have other announcements to share at this time?
Hi, I'm Steve Johnson. As most of you know, I'm sure by now, we are in the middle of two very important campaigns. We are making some progress, but we've got a ways to go. And to learn more about the campaigns and generally to make merry, we are holding house parties around the parish. There is a house party at the historic Peace Barn, speaking of the De Normandies, this Wednesday at 7. Wine, coffee, dessert. Nate or Kit will be there. Rosemary or Sarah will be there to just talk about the campaigns a little bit and to have fun. And if you've not signed up already, you can do that with QR code in your program. You can sign up in the Stearns Room. You can see me in the Stearns Room. So Wednesday at 7 at the Peace Barn.
Very quick announcement. We will be holding a meeting of the Atheists and Other Seekers group. Thanks to Nate for the name for the group. If you feel sometimes held in the hands of God, but don't really think he has any hands, and not sure that it's a he, well, you might join us. May 14th in the Garrison Room up the hill at 3 p.m., and we're going to try to do it on Zoom also this time.
May we go in peace.